Welcome to the 25th episode of Redeeming the Time. I am your host, Jake Wells. This is my dad, my co-host, Keith Wells. And thank you for joining us. We're on all major platforms. If you would like to contact the show, you can contact us at Redeeming the Time Pod. And the reason he's laughing at me is because I had another mess up with recording the visual this time.
Yeah.
And so we have to restart. We already did 30 minutes of recording, and now we have to go back.
It's all right. Take two.
It's VBS week, right?
Yeah, it is.
Which is why I look like a buffoon in this stuff. It's VBS week.
That
and
shirt.
It's quite the
Where'd you get that? You don't know.
Amazing place. I don't know. It's something for the youth. Something with, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You can see we have our theme here. You know, last week we were in South Carolina. This week we're here. We did not bring that back with us. That is part of the theme for VBS this week.
Breaker Rock Beach.
Yeah.
So.
And we had 1.2 tons of sand in the fellowship hall until last night. So.
That was insane.
Yeah, it was dusty.
And now we have carnival night tonight.
Carnival night.
So it's going to be misty as well with all the cotton
candy. We will leave kids going home with a sugar buzz.
So before we get into the 38 Psalms that we have, because we have Psalms 21 to 57 today.
Which don't get overly worried. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My sports predictions have not been very good.
No, they have not.
And so the third...
And you know sports. You just...
It's a joke at this point with people, and it makes me feel real great. No, but I have not been very good. But the third game of the NBA Finals was last night, and I want to make a prediction on who I think is going to win.
Going out on a limb.
The Celtics are 3-0 right now, or up 3-0, and so I would like to make the prediction that the Celtics are going to win the NBA Finals.
That's a good prediction, considering no one has ever come back from being 3 down. So
if they lose, I got the jinx, and you can tell me to root for whoever you want to not win.
You got the Jim Nance. He never misses a free throw or a kick. Yeah.
So, but
okay, I'll put you on the spot then. Who do you think is going to win the U.S. Open?
The U.S. Open?
Yes.
So my buddies and I have a thing, and I said Max Homa as my favorite, but I think it's gonna be.
Who is winning right now? Keep talking, I'll find out.
It's the first round. First round doesn't matter.
It did for the for the
PGA.
Yeah.
Yeah, Xander did go crazy. But Max Homa is my pick. That was my pick.
Who's Cantley?
Patrick Cantley. He's the most boring golfer to watch.
Well, he's in the lead.
He's good,
under.
but
he's
man,
5 under. McIlroy's there at 4.
Yeah, McIlroy always chokes.
He'll end at 10. So
yeah. Scotty Scheffler's always a good pick. He's won like 5 already this year, so.
All right. Nobody cares about the NBA Finals, by the way. At least not in.
I do because, I like Joe Mazzulla, their coach.
Yeah. Christian guy?
Yeah. And
seems to be a strong Christian guy, actually. So.
The whole atmosphere of that Celtics team is very humble, and it's cool to see.
All right. So we are getting into the second set of Psalms that we started here. Now, don't get worried. There's so many of them. They're short, and just read through them. We took a little more time just because we wanted to give you a little more detail on some of these, but just read through them. There's different types of psalms, as we mentioned last week, just like you go on the radio and you hear a love song, and then you hear an upbeat song, and then you hear a patriotic song, whatever. That'd be a weird radio station to have all those, but a Christmas song. There's different types of psalms as well. So that's what we're going to see today. We're going to see a lot of different ones. And we start with Monday.
Monday, Psalm 21 through 25. And 21, the first 2 verses kind of set the tone for the psalm, that the Lord has heard the requests of David, and he will rejoice in the strength of the Lord.
Yeah. A lot of folks believe this is connected to Psalm 20, which we ended with last week. And then this is sort of the realization of what was asked for in Psalm 20 we see happen in Psalm 21. So the King is what I entitled this one. Now,
22 has that drastic change like in
Yeah.
other Psalms.
This is a psalm of lament. This is a messianic psalm. A lot of folks believe this is a very important psalm, actually. But most people believe 22 through 24 are connected. They make this trilogy about the shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for his sheep in 22. The great shepherd tenderly cares for the sheep in 23, the most famous of all psalms. And then the chief shepherd, King of glory, he rewards the sheep in 24. What we see here is a graphic picture of a crucifixion. This is, like I said, a messianic psalm. It foretells of what Christ would do. The Lord speaks the words of verse 1 on Matthew 27:46. Verse 14, his bones out of joint. Verse 15, exhausted, extreme thirst. 16, pierced hands and feet. 17, lack of covering for people to see his nakedness there. Verse 18, the casting of lots for his garments. All of this before Rome existed as an empire and before crucifixion was a means of torture. So, but yet all this detail is there.
Yeah.
So,
Psalm 23.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. I mean, that is. What else can you say?
Yeah, it's the most famous.
I found it particularly interesting because of the background of David, because he was a shepherd, and he understood the servant leadership, I guess, with that, because the shepherd is not a very high and mighty position, but he understands that is, he understands the duty or the lovingness.
The verse that always sticks out for me, I use this in almost every funeral, at the graveside, the committal. Verse 4, the shadow of death, when it talks about that. The sting of death is gone as a Christian. And therefore, the shadow of death, it has no effect on us, which that's a really cool verse. All right.
Yep.
Psalm 24, the great Lord, the chief shepherd, also a messianic psalm. A lot of people believe this was written as David was bringing the Ark of the Covenant to the city of Jerusalem.
Yeah, as they ascend the hill.
Who does God allow?
Yeah, the pure and the people
Clean.
that walk. Yeah, integrity.
Who is the King?
Yeah, you can't read the last few verses without singing them.
Over and over. There are many songs made out of that. So, next,
Psalm 25, and I love this psalm.
Yeah. This is an acrostic, by the way, probably used to help in memorization. So each line was a different letter of the Hebrew alphabet.
I love this because of the notion of being teachable and coachable. Swallowing your pride, realizing that we don't know everything, and we need to rely on the Lord as He leads us through life. And in verses 4 and 5, you see the show, learn, and follow. And he talks about the sins of the past, and then please that to not remember those, but allow Him to grow and serve Him.
Very good. We get to Psalm 26.
So Tuesday we have Psalm 26 through 31.
Verse 1, judge me. Verse 2, examine me, O Lord, and prove me. So this is what everyone should do. Ask the Lord to examine us and to prove us.
And that's what Psalm 1 says a good man does, are those things.
Very true. 27, I didn't really have a lot here. Trust in God. He shows his confidence in God. He seeks God's presence. He prays to God. So
and verse 4,
straightforward.
Verse 4 through 6, I found it interesting. It's the idea of the Lord hiding him in the house, because when we want protection from something, we go inside and we go into the house. And David is asking the Lord to keep him safe in the house of the Lord.
I like that. What?
You've heard it.
Yeah, I have heard it. I liked it the first time, too.
Yeah,
It was a little fresher that time.
All right, Psalm 28.
I keep picking on him all the time.
Until we get 30 minutes in, then I'll have fresh stuff.
Oh, boy.
So Psalm 28, this is a prayer for help. And so I asked you this, why does David ask the Lord to not take him away? with the people, the wicked people, because psalm after psalm you hear him talking about praising and following the Lord, but in this chapter you see him asking not to be taken away with him. So in my head, if he's doing this, why is he asking not to be taken if he's not doing what they're doing?
I sort of took it as, consider when they were taken in captivity, did Daniel sin? Did Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego sin? But yet they were taken into captivity with everybody else. And he's saying, in here, please don't put me with the wicked when they're punished. Take me out from that.
Yeah, trying to differentiate.
Right. Yeah, because it's going to happen type thing.
Yeah.
So this is a cry to the Lord. He cries out, verses 1, my rock. He wants them to get their due. I love verses 7 and 8. Start in 6. Blessed be the Lord, because he hath heard the voice of my supplications. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusteth in him. I am helped. And then he's instructing the people in this. Then it goes to the Lord is their strength, and he is the saving strength of his anointed. So we go from sort of a change in chorus. If you're thinking of this as a song, talking about what the Lord has done for me, and then now let's include everybody else. And a song works that way. Steve Green, I was saying before, Steve Green's songs are that way, where I can remember the chorus was all about what it meant to him, and then the final chorus always included everyone, so you felt you were part of
included.
Part of the songs, yeah, which makes sense. Then we get to 29, a great psalm.
The voice of the Lord.
Yeah. 7 times in verses 3 through 9, the voice of the Lord, his mere command, his power over the waters, power over creation. It's a good one about psalm, and it's a psalm of praise. It's a psalm of God's majesty.
And I found it really powerful when you tie it in with the still small voice towards us, because that voice can do all that powerful stuff, but it still speaks in a still small voice to you.
Amen.
Psalm 30. This was a song at the dedication of the house of David. So this.
Yeah. So I had the question here. Was this? What does that mean? Was that when he dedicated? It's a psalm of thanksgiving. That's the type of psalm. But was this the establishment? Does that mean the establishment of him as king, the establishment of his palace, or when Nathan came to him and told him that God had established his family, so that there's a perpetual kingdom that's going to come, even the Messiah would come through him? What is it speaking about here? I think it's probably when Nathan spoke to him. But there's some cool stuff in this one. Verse 3, thou hast kept me alive. He acknowledges that. Verse 5, the encouragement of God's comfort. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. We're going to have some terrible things that happen in life, but it's only a chapter, and joy comes in the morning.
Yeah.
And we see that.
I just see David has a series of statements that shows how he got here, and if it wasn't for the Lord, he wouldn't be there. And he's kind of looking back at his life and seeing all the things that the Lord
because he's
he's
just run from Saul for like 10 to 15 years of his life, and now finally he has some goodness in there. So this prayer of thanksgiving is completely reasonable.
Psalm 31, David takes refuge in God and asks for deliverance. And just like we've heard, he talks about his anguish, and then he trusts and believes that the Lord will be faithful and deliver him. Yeah,
I have more on this. This one really just captured my heart. This is the Psalm of Faith. Now, this is interesting. Now, you got to remember, this is a psalm that was to be, when it says to the chief musician, that means it was instructed for the congregation. This chief musician was going to lead everyone in singing this. But it's this weird song, not weird, but the Psalm of Faith talking very personal things of suffering and how he was dealing with those types of things and the faith that he has. This is a very quoted psalm. Later in Psalm 71, the first 3 verses are quoted. Jonah quotes this, verse 6, and Jonah 2:8. Jeremiah quotes verse 13 6 different times in the book of Jeremiah and Lamentations. Paul quotes verse 24 in 1 Corinthians 16:13. And then Jesus' final words on the cross are verse 5. So And even Stephen, the first deacon, he does some variation of that as well. But we see in verses 1 through 5, in thee, O Lord, do I put my trust. Thou art my rock and my fortress. Thou art my strength. Thou hast redeemed me. All these cries of proclamations of faith. And then, into thine hand I commit my spirit, as the Lord says in Luke 23:46. So, all the things that God has done, considered my trouble, known my soul in adversity, and has not shut me up. There's a lot of great things here that he says. And then verses 9 through 13, these are the real telling ones to me, that he is just pouring out, have mercy upon me, O Lord, for I am in trouble. Mine eye is consumed with grief, yea, my soul and my belly, for my life is spent with grief, and my years with sighing, my strength is failing. All these things that he talks about, he goes on to talk about, you can feel the raw emotion that he has when Saul and Absalom, or whichever it is that he's speaking of here, he is this polarizing figure because he has decided, I'm going to follow God. So you either love him or you hate him. King Saul hated him because he loved the Lord, and King Saul knew that the Lord had departed from him.
Yeah.
So we have this thing, and he asks God in verses 15 through 18, deliver me, make thy face to shine upon thy servant, let me not be ashamed, let the wicked be ashamed. And then verse 15, this is the capstone for me, my times are in thy hand. That's a cool phrase. So it's first an acknowledgement that you're in control.
Yeah.
My times are in thy hand, but it's also a surrender.
Mm-hmm.
My times are in your hand. Here they are.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of both, I think, going on there. So he praises the Lord through this in this time of trouble.
Hump day now. I got Wednesday, Psalm 32 through 35. Do you have any more in 31?
Nope.
32 is a chapter about confession and forgiveness. And in verse 3, you see here that when you keep silent, that is when you start, you see the consequences, where my bones waxed old through the roaring all the day long, and talking about the
unconfessed sin, what
it does
Mm-hmm.
to you. And then it displays the action in verse 5 of what they should do in confessing, and then in verse 6 he pleads for everybody to confess their sins. What do you think about verse 9, where it's talking about the mule and the horse?
I love it. It reminds you of James, where James talks about our tongue, how it's uncontrollable and like a horse needs a bridle, and this is what he's talking about here. God's instruction is there to listen and to follow, or you can be like a horse or a mule and go do what you want. You have to be held back. God will pull you back, or you can choose to follow the Lord.
Yeah.
So don't be a mule is basically what he's saying here. Don't be a donkey. Listen to the Lord, else you're going to face the restriction, the pulling back in your life. That's what I take from that.
Yeah.
Now, one instruction on this ahead of time is the word, I say instruction because Mishiel, that it mentions there at the beginning, a Psalm of David, Mishiel. That is instruction or contemplation. And we know that even more so because 3 times in just 11 verses, the word Selah is there, which means to stop and to contemplate and to think about. And so that's what we have here. G. Campbell Morgan, he says, it is a psalm of penitence, but it is also the song of a ransomed soul, rejoicing in the wonders of the grace of God. Sin is dealt with, sorrow is comforted, ignorance is instructed. I like that part. So, yep, good psalm.
Psalm 33 is a song of rejoicing.
Like I'm judging them. That's it. It's a great psalm. That's what I meant.
This is a psalm of rejoicing and praising the Lord with a harp, psaltery, instrument of 10 strings, singing skillfully and with a loud noise.
You can do both.
Or you have one.
Or maybe you just have one.
Yeah, and then it gets into the power of the Lord, and I love how it's portrayed here in verse 10, where it's talking about how the devices of man are of no effect. So basically anything that we make is null and void.
Yeah, if he chooses. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. That's always the verse that sticks out. So.
34.
Praise in the escape. The title lets us know this was following the events of 1 Samuel 21, 10 through 22, when David fled from Gath. When you remember when David goes
fled
in
to Gath.
To Gath, yeah. When David's fleeing Saul and he goes in and realizes, oh, I'm in trouble here.
So he acts like a crazy person.
Yeah. So this is probably written after he's left in the cave of Adullam when his mighty men come to him. It's also written as an acrostic, except for one letter. Okay, but
there's some cool verses in here, like verse 3, "Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together." Verse 8, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good." And verse 19, it's the notion, no matter what we go through, the Lord will deliver us. Verse 22, "The Lord redeemeth the soul of his servants." Like, there's just verse after verse in here that's very powerful.
I guess the thing that sticks out to me the most is
verse 20.
Well, this psalm, before that, this psalm shows David's gratitude and realization. He knew he shouldn't have gone. After he realizes real quick, hey, I should not be here. And so he acts like a crazy man. So now he sees God protected him. This realization that God, even through his mess up, was gracious and kind and allowed him out of this. And we've all had that situation where we've done something stupid, and yet God showed mercy on us and didn't let us. I mean, he could have been destroyed. He could have been killed right there.
Yeah.
And everything's
everything's
done there.
Yeah.
So, verse 20 is a messianic verse. You wouldn't know that by reading this, other than the fact that John quotes it in John 19:36. Where it says, he keepeth all his bones, not one of them is broken. As you're reading through this, you would not, that wouldn't stick out just on first glance, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we get to Psalm 35. This is the first of the imprecatory psalms. What's that? A precatory psalm is...
I don't know.
It's a psalm of crying out for a vindication, wanting your enemies destroyed. It's mind-boggling that you read that, and there's some later that like dashing hits against the rocks. You're just, what? Just crazy stuff. At first, I think it shows we can truly cry out to the Lord with anything that's in our mind and hearts, and He'll work with us and deal with us. But we also have to realize when this was written. This is written during the law, not during the dispensation of grace that we're in now. So the nation's supposed to, of Israel, to be protected, versus we're instructed to turn the other cheek and to love our neighbors and those types of things. So there's a little difference.
Yeah, that's what stuck out to me as well. This is when I realized that we don't really understand this as Americans, because as David, as the king at this point, he has enemies trying to conquer them and trying to fight them and go to war. We don't have that like it was back then. And
I can guarantee somebody was praying that type of stuff when the Nazis were attacking Europe. I mean,
we don't get it. We don't understand it as Americans. That nations are building up to attack them, and so one of the main focuses of David was to keep the nation safe and to protect them.
Yeah, I pray that God will confound the wicked today, that the different schemes that they have will fall apart. I pray for their salvation as well, but for the group as a whole, I want that destroyed. I don't want that, so there's very applicable things in our life as well today. So.
Yeah.
It's Psalm 36.
Just like it.
Okay.
For me, it's gonna almost seem repetitive at times going on from here. Or just not too much, but like, deliver me, deliver me, deliver me. It seems like he's saying the same thing over and over, but.
Yeah, and that's what you see in this first book. It's broken into several books, and this first book, it's David.
It's important to them because
crying out.
They have these people coming after them.
Right. Yeah, on every side. And have and still do.
Yeah.
I mean, right now they're surrounded. They're There's people within their country. There's tunnels that they have found under their cities, and just craziness.
Yeah. So then we get into Thursday, Psalm 36 through 39, and 36. David reflects on the sinfulness of the wicked, kind of describes the ways of them.
I looked at this is also a congregational, but it's a psalm of faith. David, the servant of the Lord. So, verse 9, for with thee is the fountain of life. So there's, no matter what's going on, it's a psalm of faith.
Mm-hmm.
37's awesome. That is a cool.
Yeah.
When we get to the book of Proverbs, you're gonna see what I mean here. But I called this one wisdom over worry. But this is a wisdom psalm. There's not many of these, and it reads like a chapter of Proverbs. In fact, as you read this, you're sort of like, I can see where Solomon got some of his wisdom and from. If his dad wrote this, he's read it.
Yeah.
And so
we have the contrast between the wicked and the godly again, like in Psalm 1 here, right?
Yeah.
Like the fate of the wicked, and then you have the fate of not the fate, but the destiny of the godly is what I've...
Yeah, which we're going to see in Proverbs over and over.
Yeah.
The righteous do this, the wicked do this, back and forth. I love the instruction, in verse 1, fret not. Verse 2, trust, delight, commit, rest, seek and forsake, depart, wait on the Lord, mark. All these different things are throughout this.
I have all those in my notes too.
Do you really?
That's my next point, yeah.
Verse, that cannot be right. Yeah, verse 37. Mark the perfect man and behold the upright, for the end of that man is peace.
Yeah. It's saying not to fret in the prospering of the wicked, because the wicked are they can prosper on earth, but I don't know when they die.
Yeah, it's going to be removed.
Yeah.
This one actually is written as an acrostic also, but not by verse, but by sentence. So this one's a little different. Some people call this a messianic psalm. I struggled with that one, finding how that worked out. But just so you know, that's quite a long one. It also shows David's age. In verse 25, I have been young and now am old, yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor the seed or his seed begging bread, which is a wonderful promise. But we see he's written this now in his older years. So these enemies that he's talking about, he's seen it. So he's seen both the through his young years and his older years now, and
and now he's instructing the younger to not fret. Psalm 38 is all about the heaviness and the burden of sin. And verse 2, thine arrows stick fast in me, or the wrath hurts me deeply.
Yeah, this is known as a penitent psalm.
There's no rest in my bones.
Now, here's something to consider. I found this very interesting that's connected or follows 37. So we see here these extremes of our humanity. 37 shows the extreme wisdom of David, and then yet 38, which is also a psalm of David, shows him after his sin. So, yes, we have our high peaks of this great wisdom, and yet we have our lows of just being sinful man.
And being in agony over that sin.
Yeah, and we don't even know the occasion. It doesn't tell us.
No, it doesn't. But
to bring to remembrance is the title there. Yeah.
Which makes me think, this was one of the ones that brought a question to my mind. Am I in this agony when I sin? Like, he is in agony over this. And am I this upset over disappointing and disobeying the Lord? Because you can see it here that he is...
Verses 3 through 8, you can feel it. I mean, you literally can feel it as you can see it. Sin affects his mind, his body, the soundness, his rest. He's overwhelmed. He's troubled. He talks about feebleness. It caused mourning. The thrust of this is sin causes suffering, especially in God's children, because we know better.
Yeah.
And especially in time, he's not in the time of grace. We have the Holy Spirit within us telling us and, knocking on our heart and saying, don't do this, don't do this. Every person we get an opportunity to lead to the Lord, we always tell them, the Lord is always with you. And that's a two-edged sword. He's with you when you're alone and you're all by yourself. You're never alone.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also there with you
when you need it.
When you're doing things you shouldn't.
Yeah. Sorry.
And he's there to convict. So there's, that's what we have here. Sin causes this suffering. So
Psalm 39. You have any more with 38?
No, just, "Oh Lord, my salvation" is the cry in verses 21 to 22.
39 starts with him talking about guarding his speech, not sinning with his tongue, which goes back to some of the other things. And I thought the next few verses were noteworthy for us. He asked God to show him the brevity of life.
Yeah.
Show him how many years he has.
That's what I had. The measure of my days was my title for this one. Yeah.
Why? To know how frail his life really is. And when you know that and you understand that, that's a humbling thought.
That knowledge should change how we live our life. I've got a friend that parent passed away young in life, and it has changed how that person has lived their life, knowing that it could happen to them.
Yeah.
For our family, I have, you're going to deal with this later in life too. There's Dad died at 64 on Dad's side. Leanne will hate that I'm saying this because she hates when I talk like this. My grandpa on the other side died at 68 of heart disease. Obviously it's genetic because at 53 it hits me at 52 at the time, hit me at the same time. You realize that it changes how you live your life. You don't take things for granted, which you don't live as flippantly as many others do. You try not to pursue materialistic things as much. So this is real. And to me, I think David wrote this later in life. It sort of has an Ecclesiastes feel to it. When we get to Ecclesiastes, you'll get the, everything is vanity, that kind of thought. But knowing our days are quickly spent, and all earthly things go to others, you can live for every possession in the world and you're going to blow it, when I pass from the scene or Emily is. Well, I think right now you'll hear a lot of ladies talk about their the different things they have if they have a curio cabinet in their house. Well, when they pass away, your generation could care less about those things, and they're just being sold off. We keep them cherished, these cherished little Hummels, and great, they're nice and all that kind of thing. It used to be a big deal that you got your mom and dad's china set. Do you have china?
We do, but we don't ever use it.
My mom's we use every Christmas.
Yeah.
And ours, never.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it looks like. It's never. Did you even know she had it? I know where it's at.
I don't even know what Nana's looks like, and we use it every year.
So those types of things. I think we got off the subject, but
no, I think it's just for me, I kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but your age is really just a number.
Well, sure.
And the Lord knows when He'll take you from this earth, and I don't know.
He does give us free will to where we can choose to change that. I would agree.
Change, like you said, it just changes how you. If you knew how many days you had left, that would change.
Yeah, that's a whole.
But yeah, we won't
different subject there. If you knew how many days, but to live with urgency, live with expectancy,
intentionality.
There you go. That's the word. All right, I think we got off subject a little bit. So we also have 17 more to go.
All right, Friday you have Psalm 40 through 45, and it starts off. 40 starts off with the Lord lifting David out of a horrible pit, and putting a new song in his mouth.
I waited patiently for the Lord, and he's the, here's the wonderful results of that, basically.
Expresses that he wants to do his law, for the law is in his heart. I just thought that was interesting.
I think verses 6 through 10 harken back to what Samuel says to King Saul. If you boil that down, obedience is better than sacrifice, is what he's saying there. You weren't looking for sacrifices. You were looking for us to do your will. Then it speaks of, there's some messianic type words in there as well.
This is the second time this has been, it's in 35 and in here. And in verse 15 it says, aha, aha. Is that laughing? What is that? It says, let them be desolate for a reward of their shame. They say unto me, aha, aha. It says it in 35 too.
I don't know. I'd have to read it. I could get more detail.
Psalm 41.
How was it?
No.
Say it again, please.
Nope. 41. You have, blessed is he that considereth the poor, and that the Lord will deliver him, preserve him, and strengthen him.
And 41? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, and 41.
Yeah. Yeah, David's asking for God's healing and protection from those close to him that were against him.
Yeah,
here.
So my Bible references 2 Samuel 15, which is the reference to Absalom.
I think it was more Ahithophel. I think it's Absalom and Ahithophel.
I
think it's leaning toward Ahithophel.
Because it talks about a friend.
Yeah, it talks about a friend, and it also, isn't it say he wants a... Oh, crud. I lost it.
But it does make sense. Like, it's the man... It was a man who used to eat bread with him.
Yeah.
And it's a close relative or close friend that advised him. And
yea, my own familiar friend in whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, hath lifted up his heel against me. It might be his son, but I think it's more Ahithophel.
Yeah,
who's the advisor. That makes more sense to me.
This
has messianic, it alludes to Judas against Christ as well. John 13:18, as the Lord quotes these words. So now this is the end of book 1 of the Psalter. So book 1, we've looked at, it dealt with David's fight against the wicked. So now we're going to get to book 2, and you're going to feel a little bit of a change in these, how God rescues Israel from their enemies. So we're going into book 2. A lot of your Bibles might have a line across there where it says book 2. Mine does. Does yours?
It doesn't have a line, but it says book 2.
Okay. No line.
Were you meaning like a line of a sentence or just a line?
An actual line.
Moving on. So the second book is...
A line.
No, I don't have a line.
Okay.
It just...
Very good.
I can draw a line if you want me to.
Okay. We've lost it. It's been a long week, I guess.
All right, so...
Where is thy God?
The second book is 42 through 72.
Yeah.
So we have 42... Yeah.
Let me say a few things before we actually get into this psalm. So the reference in book 2 changes, and the reference to God changes. In book 1, Jehovah or the Lord, all capitals, is used 272 times. And the word Elohim or God is used only 15 times. Now in book 2, we see a switch, and Elohim is used 164 times, and Jehovah is only used 30 times. So this marks when David in book 1 is crying out to the Lord, his redeeming, his personal Lord that he's speaking. Now now it's to God who is in control with all power over the land of Israel. So there's a little difference there. We also see in this one the sons of Korah leading worship. Remember Korah back in Numbers 16, the dude that's swallowed up by the earth because he led the rebellion against Moses. He's destroyed, but his family, they survive because it's redemption versus individual accountability type of thing. So now that's what they're doing. They're the people that are they're this serving the Lord, and they've been put in charge of some of the music by David, and now we have this psalm. So,
Which 42 is my favorite hymn. As the deer panteth for the water. That's the start of it.
oh yeah,
So that's Psalm 42. That's the first verse there. David's soul is longing for the Lord.
Yeah.
As a deer longs or thirsts for water.
Yeah, he's being mocked 2 times in here. The enemy's mock, saying, "Where is thy God?" And his faith remains steadfast. He's crying out to God. This is a psalm sort of like stick with it, stick to it, remain faithful and trust. It's okay to cry out to God, and we have this beautiful hymn.
So is 43 kind of a continuation of 42? It's kind of a prayer of vindication.
What I read was it's the same message, it's the same style, and a lot of people think whoever wrote the 42 maybe later in life wrote a supplemental in 43. We don't know that. I don't know why people would say it, but nonetheless they do. It definitely looks like it's the same author with that. And we see, cry to God.
Yeah, to send his light and guide him. Yeah.
Psalm 44.
This was the songs, the sons of Korah meant to be in contemplation. So we have that Mashiel again.
Yeah.
There is a remembrance of what God did and how he delivered the ancestors in the past. And then kind of speaks on the current state of
they're
where
in chastisement. They're a nation under chastisement at this time. So this is not during King David's lifetime. This is a later one, in my opinion, based on. Yeah, so that they rehearse what God has done for them, and then verses 4 through 8. Verses 10 through 19. This chastisement and defeat they're in. Verse 18, though, read verse 18. I thought that lacked some humility.
Our heart is not turned back, neither have our steps declined from thy way.
Well, then why are you in chastisement? And then finally, in 20 through 21, they acknowledge God's knowledge of them, and they plead for help as sheep for the slaughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a note here. Think of singing that as a congregation.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
I was thinking that with a few of them. Like, man.
Turn to Psalm 44. Let's sing about God's chastisement on our life.
Boy.
It would change you.
It would.
Yeah, it would change how you think about your life. I consider our prayers are not what they should be in church. And many psalms are prayers. Our prayers are, we pray for the sick, we pray for those hurting, upcoming events, situations like that. We don't pray a lot as a congregation for repentance and for God to heal our land and God to forgive us of our sin and being honest with each other around that. And they are here. And I think that, to me, that points to something we should be doing more of. And I'm saying that to myself, not to everybody else. So, Psalm 45. So
this is a royal wedding song. So it's supposed to be set to the song "The Lilies."
The Lilies.
Which is apparently a tune or something. Psalm 69 also is set to the Lilies.
Yep.
So this psalm is celebrating the splendor and majesty of the king, and then also addresses the bride.
Yeah, it's a messianic psalm as well. Yes. So if you think of this as you're reading it, the beauty of the king, the coming majesty of the king as bridegroom, Messiah, the king in all his character in 6 and 7. Then the king presented, then the bride of the king, the bride of the Messiah. We have people. We have the people of God's as. Oh, never mind. That I don't. Oh, okay. I remember. I got trying to read my own writing here. So we have the people of God, Israel, as the wife of God, all right, and then we have the bride of Christ, the church. So there's this difference here. God the Father calls Israel his bride, and the church is considered the bride of Christ. So there's on and on here. Here's an interesting thing, though, in this. If you go back and looking at the names that are used for God, the name Adonai is used instead of Elohim. Adonai is the husband name, and that's in verse 6. So, something interesting to look at.
Yeah. So now we go into Saturday.
Okay.
Psalm 46 through 50, and Psalm 46 is possibly a song that was sung while carrying the ark to Jerusalem.
Oh, okay.
So in the title it mentions Alamoth, and Alamoth is referenced in 1 Chronicles 15:20 when the psalteries, it talks about the psalteries upon Alamoth, and that's when they're bringing the ark to Jerusalem.
I didn't read
so this is possibly something that David is dancing and singing to.
Yeah, it's a psalm of confidence in the Lord. He's our refuge, our strength, our help, causes no fear. He provides.
Verse 10, be still and know that I am God.
Be still, know that I am God. Yep. Alamoth also, I saw that was a word for young ladies or virgins, they said. So they thought possibly this was sung by a choir of young ladies. Is what I saw with when I was doing the study on that. So we don't really know there.
47, we got a camp song. Oh, clap your hands. All you people clap your hands. Oh, clap your hands.
All right.
Shout out to God. Really, you're going to leave me hanging?
Oh, it's so tired.
Get out of here. This is exalting and praising the Most High God, the King over the earth who reigns over all nations. Do you have more in 46?
No.
Okay.
No, this is, celebrates the King's victory. The verse 6 says sing praises 4 times. Apparently in Hebrew that's one word, which is interesting. So, for God is the King of all the earth.
48, this was written by the sons of Korah. Praises God in the city of Zion. Describes the beauty and the strength and how kings were astounded by it.
Yeah. This is a Jewish psalm celebrating God and his holy city.
Yeah. And then in verse 7, it talks about how God broke the ships of Tarshish. Didn't we read that back in Kings?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Verses 12 through 14, take heed of God's city. Know that he is our God. It's a celebration of God, a declaration of faith is basically this. Now, 49, this one, I love this one. This is a cool one. This one also reads like a proverb on the uselessness of materialism. Yep.
The fools perish and leave their wealth behind, and then the upright have dominion over them in the grave. Yeah.
This is another one. I don't know if David wrote this. It doesn't tell us David wrote this, but if this was around that time of Solomon, this is more gained wisdom that he would have already known. Worldly honors die with you, verse 15, but God will redeem my soul from the power of the grave. So it's a cool psalm.
Yeah. It's delayed satisfaction or blessing, goes completely against our human nature. We see something shiny and we want to go get it, but really...
The newest phone. I just clicked on my slug.
And it's basically advising them not to get caught up in that, right?
Yeah.
So Psalm 50 is the first one of Asaph, right?
Yeah, it's the first one of his, yeah. He's the musician that was set up by David, stayed through Solomon, and it's a warning, though.
It's not. Speaks on
Let me
God
introduce myself.
Being the almighty and all-knowing judge. And
Verse 7 through 15 is really the crux of this. The problem was, and we're going to see this with several of the prophets later on, it's ritualism versus thanksgiving. And we still fall into this problem where we become the ritual of how we do church versus actual love and thanksgiving toward the Lord. That's what he's fighting against here. And once again, imagine singing this. Verses 16 through 21.
But unto the wicked God saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? Seeing thou hatest instruction, and castest my words behind thee. When thou sawest a thief, then thou consentest with him, and hath been partaker with adulterers.
Yeah.
Just...
Verse 2. Come on, kids, sing along. All right.
Sing after me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
brutally honest. So, 51, we have a
Sunday.
David's Song of Repentance.
Extremely well-known psalm here.
This is the ultimate penitent psalm after David confronts him in 2 Samuel 11 and 12 about his sin with Bathsheba.
When Nathan confronts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I say David? Yeah. Yeah, this is a psalm. It's really, though, good for us because it's a psalm of God's forgiving power. 1 through 4, the confession of sin. 4 is interesting there. Against thee only have I sinned. Okay, he killed Uriah. He caused anguish in the nation. He sinned against Bathsheba, or with Bathsheba. But he notes here, yes, he harmed them, but the sin was against God. And by acknowledging that, David shows his belief that God's commands are real and that God's commands are right and holy. So there's a significance when we do that this is real to us. And then he asks there, purge me with hyssop, blot out my iniquities, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. And from that, there's restoration of joy.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in our life. If we allow sin in our life, we're going to have this situation. So we see this, and through this thing we see sin, it's judged, it's confessed, it's purged by blood and forgiveness, restoration, and then renewed joy and service.
I think this one is just so profound and well known because of where it came in his life.
Well, it's so dynamic when you read that in 2 Samuel, and now you get to
feel what he was.
You get to get a snapshot. It's one thing to hear it and to visualize what's going on, and then you get to
empathize,
feel what was in his own words what he was feeling, and learn from how he corrected it.
Psalm 15, written by David when
15?
52. Holy cow! Written by
back.
David when Doeg or Dog, the Edomite, told Saul that David was come to the house of Ahimelech.
Yeah.
And he comes at Dog or
this is a
Doge.
Dogecoin. Yes. This is 1 Samuel 21 and 22. This is he goes and tells Saul. Saul winds up killing all those priests. And I don't have any other response other than take him out, God. That's what he
was. It was.
53, we have the foolish man. This is almost completely the same as Psalm 14.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few word variation, but it's the same thing as Psalm 14.
At verse 5, that was God has scattered bones of the people that have encamped against thee. That was.
Yeah. You
can see that in Joshua.
Yep, that's how it is. Psalm 54, I've got this, Save Me, O God. The title, once again, tells us this is 1 Samuel 23, possibly 26, but probably 23.
When the Ziphites
Yeah.
tattled on David's whereabouts when him and Jonathan met, right?
Isn't it hard to believe that he wrote a song while he's under all this stress? Like he had to get it out of his head or something?
Yeah.
Maybe like 5 years later, I'm going to look back and write a song. No, right in the midst of this, it's like he had to get it out.
Well, I think it's because they're strange. Like he calls them strangers. Like people that he doesn't even know are rising up against him to get reward from Saul, I guess. And that's messing with him.
Yeah, it's once again an instructive one. It's supposed to be played on a stringed instrument. All right, 55, we have another song of betrayal. He cries out to give ear, attend, and he talks about the fear he has. He wishes in verses 6 through 7, he wishes he could fly away and escape. Mm-hmm. Have you ever felt that way?
Yep.
So these are language we can deal with. Let death seize upon them. He wants vengeance on them. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. So he's got some peace that comes on this. And by this time, God he's seen God move enough that his faith has grown. He has patience as he deals with this.
I thought in verse 12, it's talking about verse 12 through 14. It's kind of, since it is somebody so close to him, that it hurts more. Like if it was an enemy, he could.
Oh, those were good verses. I remember that.
It could just be, it's an enemy. He hates me anyway.
Yeah, I expect that.
Yeah, somebody that comes from your inner circle betrays you. That's going to hurt a lot more than.
Definitely hurts more.
But the language here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, without a doubt, we can empathize with that. So 56, be merciful to me, O God. This psalm took place in 1 Samuel 21, verses 10 through 15. Once again with David in Gath. The cry of the dove of distant trees. There's a couple different. Maybe it's a tune. Maybe it's describing David as the dove. We don't know, but it's probably the tune.
For me, verses 4 and 11, David was not afraid of what people could do to him. He was afraid of the Lord.
Yeah.
He could not care less about what people could do to him in these verses. At least that's what it seems like when he's writing this. And do we have that fear of the Lord?
Yeah. All right. Last one. 57. My soul trusts in thee. This is one of 4 Al-Tashish. I did not pronounce that right.
Sure you did.
Which Al-Tashith, which means do not destroy. And in all of these do not destroy ones, and all of them, the wicked are called to be destroyed. So there's an imprecatory thing, and the righteous are called to be preserved. So that's the do not destroy part.
Yeah, he's like in pain and despair, but he still exalts the name of the Lord in this psalm.
Yeah,
and he sings praises and probably playing his harp in the cave while Saul's coming after him. It's incredible.
Yeah, this is the one where he's fleeing the cave from King Saul, yeah. And then there's a chorus in verse 5. There's the same chorus in verse 11, just like a normal song we'd have today where there's a chorus. And I know it's a lot. Keep up with it.
I don't think we have this many in the coming weeks. I think this was the most.
Yeah, maybe
I think.
Probably the last week will be, because all those ones after Psalm 119 are really short. The ones in the 120s and stuff like that. But next week we are through 82,
I think.
58 through 89, so 31 of them. So, yeah. I've got 2 done. So how's that? So I got to catch up.
So what did the ocean say to the other ocean?
I don't know.
Nothing. It just waved.
No, that one's terrible.
That one's from Nate Lloyd. So
sorry, bud. That was no.
We had to end it. It had to be something with the beach.
Oh, that's
right?
true. That is true. Very good. All right. Well, we hope you guys have a great week. Get in the Psalms and pick up if you missed before. Pick up there and keep going. And we love you guys. See you. Bye.